Hi guys, welcome back to my second video. In this one I'm going to talk a lot more about a specific rotation or skill combination that you can choose to play or to go with. Um, Not really how you get the maximum DPS, but how I play Zerk and how I think it's the most fun that you can get. Um, Depending on what skills you use in which row, which skill do you chain after another, and when you use an auto attack, all this stuff. In the last video I talked about your skill tree. That's the same one I'm using right now. So if you didn't watch it, you can check it out. It's a pretty long video, so you can skip at the end. You will see the whole skill tree. If you got questions to specific skills, you can skip to each skill that I'm explaining over there. So yeah. Yeah, as I said, I'm using the skill tree. First, we're gonna use our buff again to increase our attack and our DPS, and that also increases our CP consumption by 10%. So pretty much, I'm using an attack speed pad to just for the video to show you how smooth the skills get when you have increased attack speed. It's just way more fluently and it looks a lot better. So one of the first skills that you use is double slash. Most of the time when you're in combat, let me get some rage, you're using auto attacks, spamming that one of course, and then you can chain after one auto attack, you can chain the skill and do another auto attack. Always remember that you have to spam auto attack when using this skill, because the animation will speed up when using one, as you can see. That was with spamming auto attack. Now I'm just gonna use it without. And as you can see, it's a bit faster. It's obvious when you play a lot of Zerk that you can see it's faster. And also you have to think that every time I get one stack, my attack speed increases. So yeah, you can, like I said in the last video, right click on most of the buffs and then you will remove them. For example, this one. So this is pretty simple, right? Use your basic attack, this skill, and then another basic attack. Always spam your basic attack like I said, and there are a couple more skills like this. For example, you can use your orbital slash like this, as you can see. Another skill would be, for example, your suppression strike. But this one I recommend doing one basic attack after that, but not really before that. You can use this skill, suppression strike, to cancel a skill with a long animation. For example, like bloody assault, like this, and then you do a basic attack after that. So spam cancel, sorry, spam canceling doesn't exist, guys. Don't be confused. You always cancel skills with a long animation and that have a longer cast time than they actually do damage. For example, is Bloody Assault. As you can see, the third hit now is done and the animation is still going on. There is still a time where you don't deal damage, but you're stuck in this animation and cannot get out of there, no matter what you do. Let me proc that again. Even if you spam basic attack, it's still pretty long, right? But what you can do instead is do the third hit and then you use a skill that interrupts your current animation. That speeds up your time and increases your DPS. For example, suppression strike will interrupt your preemptive strike. If you proc blood grudge itself, it will interrupt. There are a couple more like ferocity and will strike. Those are just some examples, right? It also goes with PvP skills. For example, I think this one, Twin Edge, yes. So what you do is you proc a skill with a long animation, then you cast this, cancel, and keep on going with that rotation, right? Just to give you an example, most of the time you cancel the following skills. You cancel Rage Flood with the skill that this skill procs itself, which is Will Strike, because Will Strike is procced whenever your Rage decreases to 0, which is always the case when using Rage Flood. So you have to be careful, because when you use Rage Flood, immediately after that, Will Strike will be activated, because before your skill even hits the target, your Rage is depleted to 0, which means this skill activates, no matter if you hit the target or not. So be careful that when you use Rage Flood, you don't do it like this, right? You don't want to instantly use Will Strike, because then you don't deal damage with your Rage Flood. You have to be very careful. So the golden point is when you use it, it procs, you deal damage, and then immediately use Will Strike, like I did right there. So that's the simplest combo that you can have, right? And for example, I got the new, in quotations, new 139 and plus set bonus, which makes me proc after my using my Rage Flood when it hits the target. I think, right? Yeah, when it hits the target, it automatically procs Ferocity. This is normally not the case. This skill only procs after using Upend, and yeah, I think that's the only way, right? Yeah. So this also procs Ferocity. Ferocity is a special skill which I recommend using only when you have a skill that can cancel animations ready. For example, like I said, the 5 different skills or whatever. So with this set bonus, there's a nifty combo that you can do when you got all those skills ready. You can do basic attack, then you activate Rage Flood, then you activate Will Strike, cancel it like this. You activate Rage Flood, you cancel Rage Flood with Will Strike. Will Strike you can cancel with the Ferocity if you got the set bonus, and you can cancel then Ferocity with something like a Suppression Strike and use a basic attack after that. This is the combo that most people do, but you can also change it a little bit up, which means you can use it like this. You see, you can use the proc that procs seconds with the Will Strike. For example, normally you would proc in this situation Ferocity as your second skill and Will Strike on your first skill. But right there, this is what you never want to see. There's a chance that when your Rage Flood crits, which is normally pretty rare in raids because your crit is very low compared to the crit evasion of the boss, then the game is first registers if it was a critical strike, and if it was a critical strike, it will evaluate, does my Bloody Assault proc or not. If it evaluates that it will proc, your Ferocity will be overwritten first, and the second skill is Bloody Assault. So this means your first skill will proc as Will Strike. Your second skill normally is Ferocity, but it will be overwritten because the game tracks first if it crits or not. So Bloody Sword is the second skill, and the third skill, which you cannot use manually, you have to use it when you put it into what you're in your skill. So you cannot use Ferocity then with pressing E or Q, whatever. You have to use the Bloody Assault first. So that's pretty rare, because as you can see, normally you can proc them like this, but this can happen. It triggers a lot of Zergs, but yeah, you have to be very careful. But if you have a lot of attack speed, you want to cancel the skills as fast as possible, and then you predict what's gonna happen. But if this happens, you can't do anything about it. It's just unlucky. So yeah, so the safe way to go is always Rage Flood combo like this: Rage Flood, Will Strike, Ferocity, and then a cancel animation. But yeah, like I said, if you already proc the skill, for example, let me crit, please. Yes, I use the skill now, so it has a 10-second cooldown. So I know this skill will not proc, so I can go with this rotation instead and do a lot of other skills which need interruption. For example, the basic skill slash, or let me think, Windblade, you can also interrupt that, and use the other canceling animations to interrupt those skills instead of the skills I used before. What I like to do is, it's pretty fun, you can also do a basic attack after Rage Flood, and then use both procs to interrupt different skills. So you got simple and more fun rotation, in my opinion. Something like this, right? Not a lot people play Zerk like I do, because I'm using pretty much every skill that Zerk has, just because I like, it's more fun to just use every skill that you got, use every last attack. Most of the people tend to spam orbital slash like this instead of using different skills like I think, what's it called in English? Bludgeon and cleave. I use them as well, not that often. For example, if I can proc my skills with orbital slash, of course I'm gonna use it, but only for one time, not 2 times in a row or something like that. As you can see, pretty rarely I'm gonna use them. So, different skills that you have to cancel, like I said, is something like slash. I often do that with suppression strike or preemptive strike, also with bloody assault when you have it ready. It's a very nice skill, very fast animation. You can cancel it very early before the damage hits very early, as you can see, and the animation is very long. So it's again a very good skill to cancel out. As you can see, the animation wasn't even finished, and I canceled it immediately. Yeah, I forgot something to explain you. And the most important thing is interrupting your basic attacks with skills. You can always do that. You can always cancel your basic attack whenever you want. As you can see, I can cancel it too early before it does damage. I cancel it very late, as you can see there, when my blade was already behind me. A cool and nice method to try this yourself is to get a feeling of this is you just hit it and then you do a move back when you think the damage is done. This is how you can learn how to cancel. You can also jump, but jumping takes longer time to hit again, so I don't like that. You can just press one of your directional keys. As you can see, I'm doing damage before my sword hits the target. And the more attack speed you get, the earlier you have to cancel. It's a pretty cool technique, which you can use to really get that feeling of when you have to cancel your basic attack. And later on, when you know, okay, I know when to cancel my basic attack, I can use skills instead, right? You can see, okay, you have to cancel. And that's how you can just get a very nice and quick rotation. So yeah, a lot of people don't really like the interruption skill, the basic one, which is normally used to interrupt enemy skills or yellow bars of an enemy. Yeah, like I said, they get interrupted and normally cannot use the same move or another skill that requires a cast for 3 seconds. A lot of people don't like this animation because it's very long, but nevertheless I'm using it without cancelling. Some people use it and cancel it with another skill. I think some people use Rage Flood, something like this, right? It's pretty nice. But like I said, I don't like to cancel Rage Flood that much. I rather use this interrupting skills for different skills. But in the end, it doesn't really matter what you cancel as long as you use them efficiently. You always use them when they're ready. Try not to let them be on cooldown for too long, because it's very important. You have so many different skills which you want to use, so you really got to utilize all of them, and it's very hard. You need a lot of attack speed to utilize all of them. Yeah, that was just a basic rotation with what skills you can interrupt. As you can see, I got so many skills ready. Couldn't even interrupt anything with my bloody assault right there. What I like to do is spamming the wind blade since the last patch, last big patch, because it has an increased damage. Um, it was pushed very hard. I think before it was like 113%, now it's 170, which is more than like most of the normal skills. But the best thing is it's ranged, which is pretty good. It deals a lot of damage, and the best thing is it consumes 0 rage. So these skills, which do pretty much the same, a bit less, a bit more, they have a huge rage consumption, right? But this has 0, so which means when it crits, it gives you rage instead of taking you some rage and then refilling your rage. It's very strong. I use it a lot of the time, but also I cancel this one as well. So yeah. Before that, I always spammed slash, so it's in my mind and in the back of my mind every time that I have to use slash on cooldown. So more of the time I use slash instead of windblade. But if you see or start to create your rotation, you should really focus on using windblade instead. It's just a better skill, deals more damage. It has, like I said, 0 rage consumption, and it's a better rotation. So use this one instead, like I do right here. You wait for something that can cancel, like this, and then you keep it on cooldown if you can. Now I don't have a skill to cancel it, so I'm not using it. And then again. Another thing what I like to do is after Rage Flood, I do not use Will Strike. I instead try to use some other skills and keep my Will Strike active to cancel out other animations. I really like to keep that Will Strike ready for whenever I need it, just to speed up different skills. Because in my opinion, you can always cancel out Ferocity with other skills. There's some skill ready, and you can always use the Will Strike whenever you need one. Like, for example, you can proc Will Strike, and for 8 seconds, up to 8 seconds, you can keep it in your taskbar and use it whenever you need it, right? Same goes for Ferocity. Basically, you can use your Rage Flood, and then you could even go a step further and not use any of those skills, like this, keep all of them, and do something like this, something fancy, right? This is also an option, but most of the people like to have a really fast burst rotation, so they want to really do not want to drag their Rage Flood out. They want to do this rotation like bam bam bam, right? They want to do a huge DPS at the start, which is pretty irrelevant. If you see what I mean, if you deal like 1 million DPS at the start, right? It doesn't matter if your rotation slows down in the middle part, when it gets faster every 10 seconds, but then you fall off very hard when you have everything on cooldown and you cannot cancel animations, right? If I'm only doing this and have nothing ready, my DPS will fall very hard, and this fast combination doesn't save me, doesn't get me out of there, right? Your DPS will decrease if you use everything, every cancel that you got at once like this. Just doesn't make sense, right? You always want to do a lot of basic attacks, but before this patch I did a lot more basic attacks. Right now I'm using more of my wind blade instead when I have something to cancel it with, right? Because when you use wind blade, of course you're going to use less basic attack because you're using a lot more time in doing the animation of wind blade and not doing basic attack. So yeah. As for my start rotation or rotation in general, every 10 seconds you got your fixed Rage Flood rotation, which means you can always, let me get my crit so this shitty skill disappears. So my basic 10-second rotation is like this. never mind. I will do it in 10 seconds again. Just let me get my stacks. Okay, I'm normally doing it like this, right? You want to, like I said at the start, use your Rage Flood, Will Strike, Ferocity, and then a cancel animation, and then a basic attack. That's a pretty quickly rotation, but you can always, if you have to play an event or something, you don't have to pull this whole rotation through. You can just, for example, cancel out this as well. If you like, you have to move, you can also use your roll as a cancel skill when you have to play an event. You can also do that. For example, you do it like this, and then you roll instead of using your Bloody Assault, or you cancel your Bloody Assault with a roll. That's everything. That's also a possibility, but yeah, that's only. I recommend you playing your mechanic, not being so DPS greedy that you just always stay at the boss and ignore everything around you. You should always focus on what's happening. Even if you're doing a lot of DPS, you don't have to, yeah, like only focus on your rotation. Basically, if you at the start when you start playing Zerg, of course you have to place a lot of your focus, like 90% on your own skills, on your rotation. But as it goes for me, I rarely look at my skill bar. I know, okay, which skills did I use, which skill can I use, and then when I played a mechanic or when I went on an ad where time passes and I did not use my skills regularly, then you can check your taskbar. You see, okay, what skills do I have left? What can I use? What can I cancel and stuff? Wait, I'm gonna take a sip of water. So yeah, um, as it goes for my burst, you got a lot of attack speed normally in your raid from Ice Mage buff, your Bard, your ultimate, and everything like that. So I rarely burst with my yellow soul. I always burst with my red soul. You get so much attack speed for those 10 seconds that you don't really need it, and after those 10 seconds you have a lot of your stacks that grant you attack speed stacked, so you don't fall off too hard concerning attack speed. But what I like to do is normally in a group there's a main burst and there's a second burst after 60 seconds ish, where the group reuses their buffs. For example, the neural bond of Ice Mage is ready again. The Bard has either his ultimate or some other buffs that increases your stats. But as it goes for Zerg, I like to really, let me mute the in-game sound because someone is destroying that dummy. Um, so, sorry, now it's very quiet. Because in my opinion you can either do the yellow soul at 60 seconds, which a lot of people use, or what I like to use is after my red soul expires in my main burst, I use it immediately after that, just because I like having a lot of attack speed and it's way more fun to burst for a longer period, I think, than after 60 seconds again. I think when you lose every buff that you have, for example, every attack speed, you lose your neural bond, etc, everything. It's very slow, and I think it's pretty boring to play Zerg with so slow attack speed. So I'm like to have more fun and use my yellow soul right after my red soul. As for example, I can use my cockboard. If you don't have this, it's not very important, and it doesn't increase your attack speed. It increases your piercing by 5%, which is pretty nice, and increases your soul skill for a longer duration, I think 5 seconds to 20 seconds, which was very major before the patch when the Zerg ulti got reworked. But now that it's 10 seconds, it doesn't really matter that much. It's always better to have a longer soul skill. But yeah, it's not a must have. If you get your hands on one, you should get one in the future, there will be other mounts with combination of buffs. For example, with this one and another mount all together in one, because they want to reduce the amounts that you have to chain just to get some effects before a boss fight starts, which is pretty bad. But yeah, what can you do? If you want that extra damage, you got to mount on one mount to another. But yeah, at the moment I'm using this one. Yeah, if you start your burst without any fury or rage, I recommend you charge the boss, do 1 or 2 basic attacks, change the skill, then you buff everything, and then you can start your rotation. Wow, that was whew. My game was freezing right there. And something like this, right? Like I said, just cancel as much as you can, and yeah, you really get those 10 seconds. You have to make them count, right? You have to do as much damage as you can, cancel as many skills, do some basic attack, cancel those immediately with skills after they dealt some damage, and yeah. For example, I'm just gonna use my yellow soul now. Yeah, it's pretty simple, right? As Zerk is, I like it to think of more of an class where you don't have to just think what is your next move, you just play it. And when you play it, you feel like, okay, I can use this one again. My skill proc, now I'm gonna use this one again. I can cancel this now. It's very fun class, right? You can, every second your rotation can change. You don't have, I don't. I don't know how you play the Zerg, but I don't really have a rotation where I can just go, okay, next move is this one and next move is this, and then I have to play this one. I'm just playing how I feel like, right? So I'm just playing, okay, now I have no procs, so I'm just gonna chill. Nothing I can do about that. Okay, I got another proc, so I can use my rotation back to normal again. Sorry for zooming all the time, but if I use my control button and my basic attack, my game zooms into ego perspective, and yeah, this sucks, sorry. I don't do this intentionally, I swear. So yeah, that's pretty standard, right? It's nothing special, everyone can do that if you play a bit more Zerg. Just basic canceling. So yeah, to my burst again, I just burst again if you want, like this. Right? You just want to get those cancels in as fast as possible, as many as possible. And that's about it. It's pretty sad that they reduced the duration to 10 seconds instead of 20, because I like to have a longer burst instead of one short burst, because yeah, in 10 seconds you can't really do much. You can play one rotation and make one rage flood rotation. Like I said, it's every 10 seconds. I think that that's pretty boring. What I like to do is I like to delay my burst. Of course, I'm not delaying my my group buff, my attack buff. The first thing I do is either when you got the chance, you cleared some trash before the boss. You don't use all of your rage, right? You stack yourself to full to 100, and then on the best case, you start the boss with some rage, so you can use your rage rallying call while you're charging at the boss, because your ranged are gonna start attacking before you even hit the boss. They're gonna start right when the tank hits the boss, right? For example, Ice Mage is immediately going to use the sword and spam the boss. So they want that buff as fast as possible. On the last event on Oktoberfest, we got this buff right here, which makes you able to, when you roll, you get some 15 of your CP, right? So I get 15 rage, and this has my roll cooldown, right? And this is 10 seconds, so I gain, I actually gain 5 rage per 10 seconds. So what I like to use is, I like when we don't always start, we just have some players are AFK, whatever. We did some trash I forgot to do. I respec, then you lose all your rage. So what I like to do is roll 2 or 3 times, then I got some rage. I can I can cancel out the depletion every second with this one. As you can see, I'm almost full now. I like to charge then and use the rallying call right when I'm mid-air, not even when I'm there. When I know everyone in my group can get the buff if I use it now. It doesn't really matter if I lose 1 or 2 or 3 seconds of this, because my group is dealing that damage that I lose with from the buff. So it's no problem, right? I'm just, if even if they wouldn't ask me, I would always do it, because I don't lose. It doesn't really matter. Your own DPS is in a raid is not that important. More important is that you got all the debuffs that you can get on the boss, and that everyone has fun, right? Why even bother playing when nobody in a raid has fun? So um, my burst rotation, for example, is in a raid. I use my soul immediately because I have to. Otherwise, when I get off-mounted, right, my soul is only at 15 seconds. So I'm gonna use my cockpot. I'm gonna charge like this. What I do, I like to wait until my bloody assault procs, right, and then I start my rotation. Yeah, sorry for the lag, but my PC is not the best one, as you can see. So I will explain what I do in my burst now that it's over. Okay, so what I like to do is what I feel like is the most value that you can get in those 10 seconds, and the most satisfying way to play Zerk is you start attacking, you use your rotation but not your rage flood rotation. You try to use skills with many hits. For example, you charge at the boss, do your double strike without playing your burst. And the thing you have to aim for is doing as much hits as possible to proc that bloody assault. From my guide, you know, every 10 seconds you can proc the skill, and the proc is available for 8 seconds, right? So when you proc the skill, the 10 seconds start to run. So you got 10 seconds before you can proc the skill again. So in your burst, you want to start bursting. After this skill procs, after about 3 seconds, then you know, okay, I got 7 seconds left until I have to proc the skill again, or I'm able to proc the skill again. Then you start bursting with your rage flood rotation. Then you use this skill. This skill can proc your blood grudge. After you use the bloody assault, you can immediately use battle trance to proc this skill again. You just wait. Maybe the first one procs a blood grudge. If it doesn't, you can cancel the bloody assault again with itself, right? The first one with the second one. Then you probably, if not, you're pretty unlucky, procced blood grudge. Then you just wait a couple more, play your normal rotation, keep on going. Then you know, okay, now I don't really count the seconds, but you get a feeling for this. You feel like, okay, now I can proc. The 10-second cooldown of my first use is almost over, right? When it first proc. Then you're going to use the blood grudge. This one will deal 5 hits in a very, very quick time. And you hope that this one, those hits crit and reproc your bloody assault for the third time in 10 seconds. So you can then use this one again, and then you can even proc this one again. So the dream scenario there is you're proccing 3 times blood grudge, bloody assault, and then 3 times blood grudge, which is very, very rarely. But yeah, that's how you can deal the most DPS in 10 seconds, right? It's very fun to play like this. Sometimes if you're very unlucky, you have to wait like 5 or 6 seconds, and then it's not worth it. But I really, really, really like this combo. I did so much burst damage. It's hilarious. So yeah, again, like I said, oops, sorry. Yeah, I'm going on my cockpot again. Hope this time I don't get a freeze for like another 5 seconds. Let me reactivate my sound because it's pretty annoying, I think. So yeah. Yeah, like I said, I'm rolling to get my rage. And now I'm gonna start bursting again. This is the scenario where it doesn't proc, so yeah, I procced it. And now it will proc again, probably, yes. That's what I wanted. And as you can see, I still had all those 3 ones in. I didn't proc my blood grudge, I think only 1 time. And pretty unlucky. But that's how I like to play it. It's very fun. Yeah, I like it a lot. I was thinking about how can I use those 10 seconds just to make them the most fun, because it's a lot of fun having so much attack speed. It doesn't matter if you have a pet or not, those 10 seconds, those are very fun. Because I think the more attack speed you get, it has a soft cap, so at one point you don't get a lot more of attack speed. It decreases with every more you get. Like the, the basic explanation of a soft cap is the more you get of one score, the lesser you get. So for example, the first 10% you get 10%, then the next 10% you start getting only 9, then 8, right? So I don't know if you played Diablo or something, there's always a soft cap at like crit damage and stuff. And so it is here with attack speed, in my opinion. I don't feel like I get, if I have 300% attack speed, I don't feel like I'm having 300%, more like 200 and something, right? So yeah. I also felt like that when there was an event in the old Echo of Soul. They gave us the Enrage buff stacked times 3. I think it gives you like 200% attack speed or something. It was very fast, but it didn't feel like 1000% like it should be. Like it is this yeah, in the description. So yeah, that's again a long video. I'm sorry, but as you can see, I'm like to run this rotation where I start buffing my group before I even start attacking the boss. I wait for my buffs and then I start bursting. Oh man. I hate that. I hate it a lot. But yeah, as you can see, that was a very nice and very quick rotation. If it wasn't for the freezes, I don't know why. But I think that's because I'm recording. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's how I like to play my Zerk. I hope you like this video. If you do, you can just leave a like, leave a comment. I would be glad to read some of your guys' opinions. And maybe if you want, you can try to put a suggestion what you want to see next. Maybe another class, maybe something more to Zerg, maybe some PvP, what I do there. And yeah, I appreciate you for watching me doing this. Thank you guys.